Hi, it's Katrina. Number 10. Blackbeard's Cannon. An amazing piece of history was recently pulled up from the waters near Beaufort, North Carolina. The relic that had been lost in time came from the legendary ship of the pirate known as Blackbeard. An actual cannon from the infamous pirate's last ship, the Queen Anne's Revenge, was brought up from the sea, covered in barnacles. Weighing over 2,000 pounds, it once helped terrorize the seas. The discovery was made by researchers with the Queen Anne's Revenge project, part of an effort to secure artifacts from Blackbeard's sunken ships. So far, they have found about 280,000 artifacts from various wrecks, most pretty small. This gun was a major discovery simply for its size. It's about 8 feet long, and according to historians, the last people to have looked at it were real, breathing pirates. The cannon is pretty incredible, but only one piece of a much larger puzzle. Archaeologists have also uncovered medical supplies, dishes from the ship, gold dust from lost treasure, the shackles of prisoners, jewelry from Africa, and a small cache of pirate weapons. The ship itself was originally a French slave ship called La Concorde, but Blackbeard stole it. It was a very powerful ship, able to fight off the Navy with 40 cannons and plenty of room for cargo and pirates. Blackbeard loved to scare his victims, and this ship was very intimidating. He used it for about 6 months to terrorize the Atlantic, taking whatever he wanted. He also blockaded the port of Charleston for a week before they were able to pay him off. But in 1718, the ship hit a sandbar near the Beaufort Inlet. Later that year, Blackbeard was taken down by members of the Royal Navy of Virginia, and his most prized ship was gone. It wasn't until 1996 that the famous ship was found again. Number 9. The Whydah Galley Skeletons. The Whydah Galley was a ship from the golden age of piracy, dating back hundreds of years. This ship was commanded by Captain Samuel Bellamy, who was born in England in 1689, then moved to Massachusetts in 1715. You may know him under a different name, Black Sam. After he moved to Massachusetts, allegedly to find lost relatives, Samuel Bellamy took up with a group of sailors to hunt for the lost treasure of the 1715 Spanish fleet. These were ships that had gotten caught in a hurricane off Florida's coast and sank, filled to the brim with gold and jewels. Samuel never found the treasure, but it didn't matter. Turns out he was a great pirate and started looting merchant ships in the Bahamas. By the summer of 1716, he had already taken 53 ships and earned himself the title of the wealthiest pirate captain in history. On April 17, 1717, the Whydah Galley got stuck in a fog off the coast of Massachusetts and hit a sandbar. The boat capsized, all but 6 people were killed, and Black Sam's precious vessel sank to the bottom of the sea. And there it sat undisturbed for 260 years. The explorer Barry Clifford found its remains in 1984, and since then, he has excavated over 200,000 pieces of the ship, including priceless artifacts. More recently, researchers discovered the skeletons of 6 dead pirates, including a leg bone they believe could belong to Black Sam. In 2018, DNA analysis revealed one of the femurs they found belonged to a crew member of Eastern Mediterranean descent. They haven't actually connected Bellamy to the leg bone yet, but they are hoping to do so soon. Number 8. Captain Kidd's treasure. Underwater explorers have discovered the treasure of the notorious 17th century pirate Captain Kidd. They found it off the coast of Madagascar in the waters of Sainte Marie. Not all the treasure was found, just a single silver bar weighing roughly 9 pounds. But that's a pretty impressive bar of pure silver. It was presented to the president of Madagascar, and nothing more has been discovered just yet. But experts, such as Barry Clifford, who found both the piece of silver and Sam Bellamy's ship, say the silver bar is just the beginning. It most likely came from Kidd's ship, the Adventure Galley, and it's believed there are lots more silver bars. Captain Kidd, also known as William Kidd, was appointed by British authorities to take down the pirate menace in the late 17th century. But instead of doing that, he simply took out some of the competition and became a ruthless pirate himself. He was captured by the British and then executed in 1701. Legend has it that he left behind an enormous treasure. And even though the location of Kidd's ship, which sank in 1698, has been common knowledge for many years, the treasure has never been found. Barry Clifford just so happened to be using his metal detector underwater when it picked up the silver. The bulk of the treasure probably spilled out of the broken ship and is now strewn hundreds of feet beneath the ocean's surface in every direction, making the pieces nearly impossible to collect. Number 7. Pirates in the Vatican. A shocking tale of treasure, a pope, and a horrifying pirate was recently discovered in the Vatican archives. You've probably heard of these archives before, the secret repository of every important piece of information since the medieval days stored in Vatican City. And while most of the information is cataloged, new things are found occasionally. And recently, a new document from the archives was published discussing this bizarre tale of piracy. According to the document, the incident took place in the early part of 1357. The Sao Vicente, a vessel filled with the treasure of a dead bishop, set sail from Lisbon in Portugal. It had a cargo of gold and silver, jewels and tapestries, and all kinds of religious treasures. These treasures had belonged to the late Bishop of Lisboa, Thibaut de Castellón. The ship was on its way to France to deliver the goods, but while sailing past Cartagena, Spain, the ship was attacked by a pair of pirate vessels. One of them was commanded by Antonio Firefart. Yep, that was his name, Firefart. He was actually called Antonio Botafoc, but Botafoc translates to either fire blast or fire fart, and nobody knows his real name. Anyways, sadly for the pirate Firefart, after he and his crew escaped with the treasure, they ran aground near the small town of Aigues-Mortes in France. The local militia captured the pirates and hung them right there on the beach. Number 6. Pirates in the schoolyard. A human skeleton was found underneath a playground at a school in Scotland. Researchers say this skeleton may have once been a living, breathing pirate from the 16th century. The human remains were discovered by city workmen at the Victoria Primary School in Edinburgh. Experts carbon dated the bones to the 16th century. But how did researchers figure out the bones belonged to a pirate? That's the more gruesome part of the story. This primary school, where kids play and learn, was once the site of a gibbet. Instead of a playground, there was a crude wooden platform in which the corpses of executed pirates were displayed to the general public as a warning not to follow in their footsteps. Nobody can say for sure who this individual was, but experts can make a solid guess based on the fact he was most likely a criminal, the proximity of the gibbet to the harbor, and the time of death. They say this was almost definitely a pirate convicted of crimes on the high seas. Number 5. Cannon fodder. New evidence has come to light about the scary battle tactics pirates use thanks to the investigation into Blackbeard's wreck off the coast of North Carolina. Archaeologists from North Carolina's Department of Cultural Resources found 3 metallic clusters on the seabed. The 3 clusters are basically masses of lead shot, nails, and glass. But what were they used for? Researchers believe these materials were jammed into canvas bags and then fired out of cannons. We would call these cluster bombs. Instead of firing giant cannonballs, Blackbeard often employed terror tactics. He stuffed his cannons full of glass and nails like some anarchist in his basement making homemade nail bombs. He then fired them out of his cannons to frighten his enemies. The hope was that they would give up their ship without Blackbeard having to destroy it. But when it came to destroying ships, Blackbeard also had a tool for that. He used 2 cannonballs connected by a long iron chain. When shot from a cannon, the 2 balls would spin through the air and snap apart the rigging of the enemy ship, causing panic and chaos. Number 4. Arabian coins. Some of the oldest coins ever discovered in the United States of America are actually Arabic from the Middle East. A handful of these ancient coins was recently found at a fruit orchard in rural Rhode Island. And it wasn't the only time a random collection of old Arabic coins was discovered in New England. It's happened repeatedly, and historians say it all has to do with one particularly ruthless pirate. Jim Bailey is an amateur historian who recently came across a 17th century Arabian coin in a meadow in Middleton using his metal detector. He believes the ancient pocket change came from a murderous English pirate, a man named Captain Henry Every. Henry Every was once the most wanted criminal in the world, all because he plundered a ship full of Muslim pilgrims. It was on September 7, 1695. Captain Every ambushed a royal vessel called the Ganj-e-Sawai, which was owned by the Indian Emperor Aurangzeb. He was one of the most powerful emperors of the 17th century. The people on board the ship were returning from their pilgrimage to Mecca, but the ship also happened to contain gold and silver worth upwards of tens of millions of dollars. It was one of the most lucrative pirate robberies in history, but it was also brutal. The captain killed all the men on board, disposed of the women, and then escaped to the Bahamas. But when word spread about their horrible crimes, they had to flee. Even by pirate standards, they were considered barbaric. And until now, historians had no idea where he went. But considering the coins from the robbery ended up in New England, it looks like that was exactly where Avery and his crew escaped to. And since they were never caught, it's presumed they lived a life of luxury in the New World as some of America's first seriously wealthy criminals. Number 3. Blackbeard's Book Club. I told you about Blackbeard's cannon and cluster bombs he used to terrify his enemies, but now it's time to look at Blackbeard's Book Club. As it turns out, Blackbeard wasn't just a vicious criminal. He may have also had an interest in literature. Conservators in North Carolina recently discovered paper fragments from the wreckage of his flagship, the Queen Anne's Revenge. These paper fragments were stuffed into the back of a cannon in a big glob. They were identified as pages that had been torn out of a seafaring adventure book called A Voyage to the South Sea Around the World, first edition published in 1712. This book was actually the inspiration for the much more popular Robinson Crusoe that came after. Nobody is exactly sure who owned the book. Since it was found stuffed into the back of a cannon, it really could have been anyone. It may have been part of the library of the merchant ship Margaret, pillaged by Blackbeard, or it could have been one of his very own books, or maybe it belonged to one of his crew members. But here's the interesting thing. The book is about Woodes Rogers, the first British governor of the Bahamas. The book goes into detail about his expedition, but also talks about his crackdown on piracy. Eric Farrell with the Department of Natural and Cultural Resources says the book may have been ripped apart by an angry crew member. This crew member may have started reading it and then didn't agree with Rogers' disapproval of pirates, getting so mad he stuffed the pages into a cannon. Number 2. The Skeedum. In 2018, professional diver David Gibbons with Cornwall Maritime Archaeology came across a pirate cannon sitting on a rocky ledge off the coast of England. He found it just a few hundred feet from the beach. It was revealed thanks to a recent storm shifting around the sediment. David says the cannon is part of the wreckage of the ship the Skeedum, which was captured by pirates before later being seized by the Royal Navy in the 17th century. The cannon, which is still underwater, is about 340 years old. But the cannon wasn't the only thing waiting to be discovered here. The string of storms also revealed the remnants of timbers from the ship, as well as lost cargo. A box of pirate hand grenades was discovered, as well as a crate full of ornamental marble. The ship itself was originally a Dutch merchant vessel, captured in 1683 by Barbary pirates. The pirates failed to keep the ship. It was seized by the British and then used as a transport vessel. It was packed with arms and ammunition from the failed British colony in Morocco when it ran aground during a storm in April of 1684. The ship went down near Church Cove and was lost for over 3 centuries. Nothing has actually been recovered yet, nothing salvaged or brought to the surface, but David did manage to take so many pictures that he created a 3D image of the wreck site, showing how the ship has decayed over the centuries. Number 1. Washed up. In February of 2022, a piece of history washed itself right up onto the shores of North Carolina. It was a piece of a sunken ship from the 1800s, and it ended up on the beachfront of Bald Head Island. The tide brought it in, and then it got stuck on the sand. Interestingly enough, nobody actually knows what kind of ship this was. It could have been a merchant vessel, it could have been a pirate ship, and it could have even been used during a war. Nothing is left of it except a few chunks of wood with iron nails sticking out. Even though we can't definitively call this a pirate ship, there is no way to confirm it's not a pirate ship either. The fact is that the ocean surrounding North Carolina is basically an underwater graveyard. Historians estimate there could be 3,000 ships sunk just off the coast, many dating back to the first European settlers and to the golden age of piracy. Not far from where this washed up, Blackbeard ships are still sitting underwater. Thanks for watching! Who's your favorite pirate from history? Let me know in the comments below, and be sure to subscribe if you haven't already. See you later! Bye!